for it. That was a weird voice crack. I'm so excited. Guys, we did it.
We did it.
We did it. We watched through Jake's top 10. We watched through my top 10. And today marks the day.
We finished the slog through Jared's top 10.
Slog.
Actually, that's not fair to you. A lot of them are great. There's just been a couple that have been difficult.
Let's just say there's I don't want to say generational, but there's just a...
Jared is a historian.
Yeah, and I'm not.
And Dickey is an idiot.
I'm just not a historian.
You don't say! Well, you're not a historian, you're not a mathematician, you're not a scientist. What are you?
I'm me. And I'm proud.
That feels like an insult. I'm me.
I am a good cook. I am a good photographer.
You are.
I feel like
you are a good cook.
I feel like we need to make Dickey his own flag.
No.
Country of Dickey.
No.
Let's
No.
go!
Victoria. What is that? Is that someone giving me the bird? Oh no, that's yep.
Let's just get Dickey the Greendale community flag.
Pluribus anus. Anyway, let's get back on track. Jared, you have a favorite movie of all time.
Yes.
We watched that favorite movie of all time.
Yep.
What is that favorite movie of all time?
From 1964, Zulu, directed by Cy Enfield, starring a very young Michael Caine.
Can I point out really quick that I did not know this? I Wikipedia'd the movie because I wanted
He
to
did some research.
Because I want to do some
He went to
research.
Wikipedia.
I did. Homie, the director's from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Heck yeah! We got an Office boy.
Yeah, we'll get into the
Far
history,
before The Office,
yeah.
but I'm sorry. He put Scranton on the map.
So, no, Scranton is the Electric City.
Right.
That's what put it on the map. But this has been my favorite movie since I was a kid. I first watched it at like 9 years old.
You watched this movie at 9 years old and you loved it?
Loved it.
That's amazing.
Jared,
you're such a unique individual. Thank you for being you.
Ditto.
I suspect he watched it with his dad.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes
And I
sense.
suspect his dad was commenting on the different societies portrayed in the film as the film was going on.
He was explaining some of the history. Yep.
Yes.
I think 9-year-old me watches and I have no interest whatsoever. So I just applaud you for having such a interesting.
Are you telling me that if your dad watched a movie like this with you repeatedly and like could explain it to you, you wouldn't be interested in it?
Probably not.
Interesting.
I also the thing is just
it makes sense.
listening to the thing is
Listening.
My dad never talked to me that much.
Oh, do
Ever?
you need a hug?
My dad never hugged me.
Really?
Do you need a hug?
He's never hugged you?
No.
You want a hug right now?
I can use. I mean, I don't. Need
I'm going to get up right now. Everyone on camera. I'm walking over to give Dickey a hug so he feels better about now. Something in his life. Yeah, look into the camera, nice. And this is weird.
This is
I can feel
very
little
weird.
bristles on my arm.
I'm simply pointing out and I love that happened. But
You love your dad?
I really do.
You should hug him next time you see him.
I
don't
part
care.
Of me
Hold on.
wants
Just do it.
to Just take him by surprise.
Maybe if he
Ow!
dressed up as a tree, he'll hug you.
A tree or a deer. A tree or a deer, honestly.
I'm sorry. That was a little uncalled for.
But you,
Funny.
to move on, Jake, but I'm guessing you that, because I know you watch movies with your dad, we've talked about. Were there some where he was like talking about certain things to you when you were younger?
Never like
explain?
history like that, but
But
like,
in some way.
yeah, well,
That's
yeah.
just kind of what parents do. When they show you movies that they like, they'll say, hey, did you know? Did you know Aragorn, what's his name, Viggo Mortensen, broke his foot when he kicked that helmet? It's like, really? That's so cool. And they get older. Hey, did you know? Yeah, idiot. Everyone knows that, you stupid poser. Oh, I just really like this, and I wanted to talk about it.
Hey, did you know that the original name for Pac-Man was
Puckman.
Paku?
Puckman.
Because it comes from the Japanese Paku Paku, which means to flap one's mouth open and closed. But they had to change it to Pac-Man because they thought people would vandalize the label.
Thanks, Jake. Anyway. Before we so rudely interrupted you, go on.
I was about 9, so it was about 2003. Sorry, Jake. And which
was a
means
junior in high school.
And
I was driving.
It was about 21 years ago, around the time we're filming this, because not quite now, but it was pre-Easter because my dad had just gone to the gas station to get. How do you say the name? The Polish page. Is it Punchki? Punchki.
Like, there's an end there. Punchki.
Punchki. Okay. He had gotten a bunch of those, and he's like, "You want one?" I said, "No." So
they are kind of gross.
Oh, well, those things are great. They're filling, but they're great.
But so he had a couple of those with him. I think we had gone to the gas station. He got some of those, and Pop and I got something. Mm-hmm. Probably a Slurpee.
Oh, hell yeah.
Because the gas station.
Jared does love Slurpees.
Dude, who doesn't?
They're good.
Their Slurpees are amazing.
But that gas station right by my house. We walked there, walked back, had all our stuff, and he's like, "We're gonna watch Zulu," and it was this same VHS right here that I have on the table. If you're on YouTube, you'll see it. I'll show it later.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he bought like a DVD from the gas station.
No, we like that. I think we had. Actually, we didn't walk over. We drove to my grandpa's to borrow it, and then we stopped at the gas station to grab snacks and drinks, and then we went back and he put the movie in. And I remember every time they charge, the Zulus charge, it scared me.
Really?
Because it's intimidating.
I mean, yeah.
That's the point. And I remember my dad, he'd tell me, like, was that kind of scary? I go, well, when they charged, it was kind of scary. He goes, yeah, when I was your age and they, like Friday night movies they'd show on TV and when this would be on, I would be a kid and I got scared too every time they charge just because it's intimidating. The yell and the way they're just running, like we'll get into it, just like.
Well, I like the hearing, again, not before getting into it, hearing them before seeing them. I think that does a good job of.
Are you talking about when they hit their shields from a distance? It sounds like a train.
Yeah.
You understood that when they got there and they were hitting them, like, okay, that's what that sound is for sure. Like, that first
cool.
time you hear it in the, you're like, what is that?
The sound and the music in this were both very well done in that nature. They really.
John Barry score's one of my favorites. Like it's so good. John Barry, of course, he scored a bunch of Bond movies. Very
I can see
very
that.
big British composer.
Oh, okay.
In his time, like that's the thing. Like because it's British, there are certain things that we don't like. The one thing you guys probably know is, oh, that's Michael Caine.
Yeah, who doesn't know Michael Caine?
And then everything else is like, okay, bunch of British people.
That's my thoughts exactly.
Yep.
Michael Caine and a bunch of British people.
John Barry, he wrote Johnny Be Good, right?
Yeah, that's him.
Wasn't that Chuck Berry?
Yes.
You can continue.
Anyway, so I remember watching it at that young age, and we'd watch it. We'd borrow this for months at a time, just watch it every once in a while. It was one of his favorites growing up. It continues to be one of his favorites.
So do you remember the very, very, very first time you watched this?
Where he was,
I was
describing was.
Yeah.
That's yeah. Mm-hmm. And you really enjoyed it the very, very first time you watched it. Respect.
It scares you because, well, when you're a kid and you don't understand the nuances and the histories, you're just, okay, our main characters are surrounded and being attacked over and over. They're outnumbered, like vastly outnumbered. And when you think about the history we'll get into, it's pretty incredible that they held their ground. It really is. It came down to strategy and some luck.
Yeah.
But it is pretty miraculous.
Can I see the Blu-ray?
Yeah, sure.
And so it is historically accurate-ish?
Yeah.
Mostly. As with any movie, there's inaccuracies. Get to that too.
I'm sure you. I just had a.
Just it's every time I think about it's become that thing of even if I respond more emotionally to other movies in my top 10, it's just one of those. It's like Shawshank on IMDb. It's just not gonna move.
Yeah.
It's like this is my favorite, but also like I'm perfectly fine with it staying there regardless. It's just it is my favorite. It has stayed there for 20 years.
Okay, ever since I knew you used to always say the thing.
Yeah, and remember how I said.
What is this? Looking at it from a distance, I thought that it was a saber, but it's not.
That's the belt. Those are the buttons.
Oh. Okay.
Story about this when I get to it later, but but a couple stories. But yeah, just remember I said in last week's episode how I didn't have like a set in stone top 10, but it was like, oh, Casablanca's in the top 10, Gettysburg's in the top 10, and Zulu is in the top. It's always been one. I think I found a spreadsheet. Oh boy. We have a Windows XP that still runs.
No way.
It still runs. It's not connected to the internet or anything.
I was going to say, it's not surprising that it still runs so long as it's not connected to the internet.
Yeah.
And I found an old Excel spreadsheet. Because if you know me, I love spreadsheets and working with Excel. And I realized, oh, I started monkeying around with Excel in like second grade. I just loved making stuff. It was mostly sports stats and standings. I loved making those. And I had a giant list of like 300 movies. And they were all movies I liked. And they had like a score. Don't ask me how they were supposed to be scored. It was out of like 200. But I don't know what.
Oh my God.
I don't know. And it's like every time I watched a movie,
Where
I'd
would you
put
have
it
come up with that?
I don't know.
Scale.
I found this. And then like that little part of your brain that remembers like, oh, that's right. And
Like
I
it's a core memory?
I'm scrolling down this list. Like I would update this all the time. Like up through, I think I stopped touching it in like 7th or 8th grade. But I spent like 4 or 5 years. Like you don't watch a ton of stuff compared to what you can now.
Right,
But it's
yeah,
like
parents-
my version of writing down stuff for Letterboxd as a kid was going into the spreadsheet on this computer in the basement and adding a movie to the list and going, this is 52 out of 200 or this is 104. And it's like Zulu was a 200 out of 200.
Yeah,
and then whatever, I think like Gettysburg was second or something. Like, again, I didn't have a definite top 10. I just had like this random list.
So great.
I think like, no, it lasted into high school. The King's Speech was in the top 10. It was like 9th.
I mean, it's a good movie.
It is. It
I
was
don't
just-
care what anyone says.
It was just what that told me. Okay, that came out in 2010. That means into high school I was using that spreadsheet. So longer than 4 or 5 years, like 6 or
King's
7 years.
Speech is in the top 10, eh?
For a second, at least according
that's
to that.
fallen a bit.
Yeah. I mean, lots changed since I was 16.
Yeah.
I think I didn't start having a definite top 100 until like 2013.
I want everyone listening to let that sink in. A definite top 100.
It used to be every 6 months I would update my top 100. Now, because of how much work it takes, and I don't have time, and at a certain point, because I think the last couple times I've done it, like 90 out of the 100 have been the same. Not in the same place exactly, but like most of them are the same movies. So that told me, okay, the movies I'm watching, none are getting added. So make it a year, which actually in like 2 months I have to update it again.
Are there going to be any more?
Which is-
you think?
I don't. I'm not gonna up it to 200. That's just it. Unless there's enough like honorable mention stuff, because I usually have like 10 or so that barely miss.
How do you have enough mental energy
Dude,
to sort through that?
I have a list. I have a
Yeah,
list.
but still, it just requires.
I have a list of 500 movies that can go on the list, and I sift through them. I put on some music and I just sift through them. A couple hours.
God.
That's why, again, when I didn't have any time, that's what I do for fun. I don't have time,
I
so
was
it's
gonna
like
say-
once a year. I set aside one afternoon to do it.
I was going to say, I know you enjoy it, and I don't want to knock something that you enjoy.
You
but
are
my-
knocking something I enjoy.
No, I'm
jerk.
not. No, I'm not. I'm just saying, I just don't have the mental brain space to do that.
Jake, I'm with you on that.
It was hard enough to come up with my top 10.
It's respectable, but my brain is way too.
But then,
slow.
to think back over the past year and remember 100 movies that made enough of an impression on me for me to score them in that manner.
I can barely remember what I was thinking a couple days ago. Like I don't even.
Well, let's not count Dickey in this discussion.
But finding that spreadsheet was pretty fun. It's like, okay, not only do I know this is my favorite movie probably since I watched it, but there's proof of it's been there since at least like 2006.
That's crazy.
Like, it's
I was
just
graduated
stayed
from
there.
high school then.
I was in 6th grade.
11 years old.
I think 2006 was when the first Taylor Swift album came out.
Or was that 07?
Close. 07.
It's somewhere in there in the mid 2000s.
You're a Swiftie
That
now.
one.
I trust you.
Oh yeah. When everyone says that, it's like, oh, so you're a Swiftie. I go, I started liking this team before Taylor Swift released her first album.
The first Taylor Swift album was 2006.
All right. There you go.
So yeah, I became a fan before she even put her first album out.
Look at you go.
Like I tell people, like Taylor's like
October
14
24th,
when I
2006.
became a fan. So
I will admit that I have kind of become a Swiftie.
Me too.
cool.
Anyway. Tell us more about Zulu and why this is your favorite.
It's got to do with his dad.
Yeah.
It's mostly something you watch as a kid. I always liked watching old, classic westerns and war movies and historical movies, because mainly with my dad. And when you branch off into your own when you get older, it's like, because a lot of John Wayne.
Oh yeah.
Do you find that you have less fun watching them now without your dad, commentating on them?
No,
Because your dad's really smart.
he is really smart.
And it's fun to listen to him talk about things that he knows about.
I have seen like well over 1,000 or so movies by myself at this point in my life. You just get used to it. Like, I think I told someone, like 95 to 99% of what I watch every year, I'm by myself.
That's fair.
I'm just used to it.
I do know that, like, because I'm going to make this comparison. It sounds like, growing up, I went fishing with my dad. That's why I love fishing. If I go fishing by myself, it's not.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it as much.
An activity is a little different than watching something, I feel like. Because when you watch something, it's the same every time. Like, the interpretation's different, but it's the same thing you're watching. Fishing's not the same anytime. Like, it's different every time in its own ways.
Fair.
Even if nothing happens. Like,
mean,
if you don't catch it, you're the fisher, I'm not. I'm just saying. But it makes sense. If he's not there, of course it doesn't feel the same.
That is fair. It's true. I don't mean to hijack your thing, but my dad, like, he read, like, the great American classics to me when I was a kid. I guess I still read, even though he does not read them to me anymore.
I was going to say, I feel like in however many years, if I watch this and he has passed, my dad, that's going to be a very different watch.
Yes.
That makes sense.
That's the thing. It's like, okay, I watch this now and love it. Whenever that day comes and I watch it, I'm probably going to cry.
Yeah.
Pretty bad. Like, it's probably going to be like, it's now changed again. It changed from when I was 9 to when I was in high school, from high school to college and college to now. It's going to change again in 10 years. It's going to change again when that day comes, But that's how life works.
I will say that, how do I put this? The other week when we recorded Gettysburg, I knew, how when I was talking, at least with that, I was talking on the phone about, like, why did young Jared love this so much? When I watched your dad come in and look at that special
I think you
edition,
mentioned it in the episode too.
Did I? I did, like, and that just kind of colored, like, all of your movies. Like, oh, that's why this is important to him. That's why this is important to him.
And again, with that one and this one, for how violent they are, there's not a lot of blood, not a lot of gore. There's not a lot of cussing, or if the cussing there is like, pretty mild.
There's a couple of scenes where, like, the Zulus are stabbing the British people, and you can see them miss.
Yeah.
And it's and that's one of those
it's
things.
It's not a fault of the thing. It's
it's just the 40s or whenever this was made.
64. The
64.
40s.
Sorry,
my dad was a grown ass man when he was 12.
About Casablanca. That's why I'm a little thrown off.
Well, the other thing, and that's like, people like to count stuff like that against movies. It's like, a movie made today, because we have so many tools to fix that in post.
I don't know that I would count.
But in this day, like, they're working with, they had real Zulu people portray the Zulu warriors, and so they're not like these trained actors. Mm-hmm. And they also have to be careful, because some of those spears are probably real. Some of those bayonets are probably, there's probably some rubber ones you can see in a couple shots, but it's like, they have to be careful. That's, they don't want people getting hurt.
So that makes me wonder, like, I know we talked, you just said they were real Zulus portraying the Zulus. I wonder if, like, the marriage sequence at the beginning was, like, an actual, like, event or somehow staged.
Say it again. My brain went dead for a second. I don't know why.
So,
I just all
Zulus portraying Zulus, right? Portraying
Yeah.
themselves. If that marriage ceremony at the beginning, the beginning sequence,
was that real or
was
staged?
it real or was it staged?
I don't know that one. there's probably an easy answer to find out there. I'm not sure. But also, I don't know if they still dress like that, at least in the 60s. I don't know.
You know, that was my other question, is how,
and it's like, you're going to dress us up for the period. But, of course, the stuff is probably authentic, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But you just wonder, to what extent are they still following the same customs and dress and all like that. It's such an interesting
assume
people
if they
to
went there and filmed, they would put that amount of effort into the actual.
Yeah, there's a lot of effort put into this. Now, like, it's a 60s movie made about that takes place in the 1870s. It's not going to be perfect, but it does come down to they are pretty respectful, and they do not demonize the Zulus. No matter, some people online these days that don't watch the damn movie don't get it, and it's like, I'm no historian. I'm not gonna say it's like, but when you watch the movie, I do not get the impression that anyone is the evil, because of course the British Empire is not good, but this isn't about the British Empire. It's about this one group of guys.
I mean, I was still rooting for the Zulu warriors the entire time.
I was wondering the entire time, like, I was like, am I supposed to be like rooting for the British people, because I'm not.
Same, yeah. I'm like, well, when I realized, and I think I knew what this movie was about 10 minutes before I watched it, I just never looked that far into it. I mean,
we're also American. We don't really have a context for this as far as history or any sort of attachment to it.
But just period, I just didn't know what this movie was 10 minutes before I watched it. And so when I realized it was about like the Zulu battling, I'm like, okay, so hopefully, before I turn this on, hopefully the British are going to be the bad guys, because that's how it is. And I did at least kind of feel that way in my interpretation from today. And hopefully back in the 60s when this came out, they thought the same thing. I know 60s was a very progressive movement, so.
So I think it's the same, and Jake brought this up the other day. It's in the same boat as Gettysburg, where it's kind of less of a pushing you to root, and more of a it's presenting what happened. When I was a kid, it's like I would root for the British because they're the cool uniforms and the gun. Like, you're a little kid, you don't know historical context.
You're not gonna have any.
And as I got into high school, I realized, like, okay. And then, like, I think I watched the History Buffs video in college later, which the History Buffs video was great. Like, perfect way it's the perfect thing to watch after the movie. Mm-hmm. I started this feeling like, okay, neither side is demonized. It's kind of like you don't really, at least for me, root for one. You just kind of watch it unfold, because, and this is the defense I have to give, because again, people online these days just look at it from a distance and just state something and say it's bad or racist. Mm-hmm. And it's like, or a colonialist, and it's like, I see it as the Zulus are defending their homeland.
Oh, yeah.
And they are not shown to be evil at all.
No.
And then the British, if anything, the British are shown to be brutish.
Yeah.
But they're not shown to be evil, because the British Empire, again, a lot of bad stuff. These guys are a bunch of sick and wounded guys, and some guys building a bridge that are being attacked at their location. They're just defending themselves.
I think if there's one fault that I would say about the movie, the opening monologue does not, and I get the point that it's the briefing letter about what happened in the morning battle, but it doesn't make clear enough that they're not trying to defend a point of interest for the British Empire. They're just trying to stay alive.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, that's why I don't root for a side. It's like, it's pretty horrific. It's pretty violent.
Knowing that prior to watching it would completely change the narrative of it.
And again, does it push back hard on stuff like the 60s British movie? They probably, because it's Diamond Films, which Stanley Baker, the main character, who also produced, it's his studio that he set up. I wonder how much of the funding came from the fact that they can't be too much against the British Empire, because it was still the British Empire at that point.
If they're the one that's making the movie, they probably aren't gonna want.
There's a level of criticism that they can't have, because there's also the British censors, too. But also, they do a very good job of not. Again, I'm gonna keep saying demonizing, because that's this big thing. They're not demonizing the Zulus. They're literally defending their homeland. Of course, this doesn't take place in their homeland. They went into Natal, which was British owned. Again, that's colonialism.
But
These guys are in the British zone.
But the original battle in the morning was in Zululand.
So now we can get into the context of the whole thing. 1879, it's the Anglo-Zulu War is what it's called. I think it only lasted a year and a half, something like that. I need to read more on it. I think my dad found a book years ago and had read it, and I should read it because it's my favorite movie. It's this very small but important conflict that happened, and the British had already taken South Africa from the Dutch. The Boer Wars. I can't remember if there are two or not. So Boer War. So the British are down there, and it was like they wanted to keep expanding because that's colonialism, and that is bad. Yeah. You good?
Yeah, I just had a back spasm.
Gotcha. So they want to keep expanding, so they give these what am I looking for? What word am I looking for? These terms to the Zulus. The king's name is King Ketchewile, which his descendant is who plays him in the movie. So that's a direct descendant.
Nice. That's cool.
Yeah. And so they give him these terms and I can't remember if it was 20 or 30 days, something like that, to agree to them. And if they don't, then that gives them the excuse to invade. So yeah, that's not good. No. And as the prequel movie that came out in the 70s, it is the story of the Battle of Isandlwana, where the days ran out. They're like, okay, that gives us cause to go ahead and invade. So they march in. The guy split. I can't remember people's names. They split the numbers in half, and the one half that went out near Isandlwana ran into a giant horde of Zulu warriors. They're 20,000 or something like that. It was huge, and they got decimated. Damn. Which they invaded.
Oh yeah, you should.
That's what happened. It's not like I wish death upon people, but if you march into their country after finding an excuse to do so, and you run into their main army and they destroy you, you kind of did that to yourself. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if I want to say good. It's just more, because as much as we can sit here and make statements like that, it's a pretty heavy stuff that happened so long ago. So it's the best thing to say, I would say, not to defend the British, is that's kind of what happens if you're going to do that. Yeah. And it's not, colonialism is terrible. Yeah. So then what happens is, it's such a massive upset because you'd think, oh, they have guns and cannons. They have all this modern technology, and the Zulus don't.
Sometimes numbers just win.
Yeah. Not just... Zulus had a strategy. As the movie tells you, the horns of the buffalo. They have a strategy. They have a very strong, pretty big army. They're well organized, and they, similar to, as history buff said, the Spartan culture of the warrior culture, where I think he said 14. From 14 on, you are training as a warrior. And that's why the British lost. Not only numbers, they're organized. They have a battle strategy that's lethal. They also
underestimated them because the British have gunpowder
and they split in half. Not that the other half would have made them win the battle, but you split in half and then you run into all those, because it was 1,200 men, they said, and that happened in the morning before this. Yeah. It's the same day, and so that
opening shot is brutal.
Yeah, I was thinking this. I'm like.
When the fire, it's Richard Burton narrating, and it zooms in on the paper, and then it opens up with the fire.
You're still trying to process what the narration just said, and it's
and it's
what?
this desolate battlefield, and then all the Zulus come and start picking up the guns. So what happened was, after the battle, a bunch, 4,000 of them, followed by one of the princes. I can't remember if he was the only prince, but a prince led 4,000 of them away, and they were going to Rorke's Drift because they knew there were British soldiers at the mission there. That's in Natal. So they're going out of to attack them. They weren't supposed to. Ketchewile did not want them to do that, but they kind of ran off. So they're going, and you hear murmurs of it at Rorke's Drift, and that's why they bunker down, because Chard takes command. Lieutenant John Chard of the Royal Engineers, full title. So he assumes command. He's there to build a bridge, and Lieutenant Gonville Bromhead, that's Michael Caine's character. Yeah. That's those are his troops from the column. Chard's there as an engineer, but he has seniority, so he assumes command, and they don't leave because they know if we load up wagons because they have a bunch of sick and wounded, if we load up and try to run, they'll catch up to us and slaughter us out in the open. So that's why he makes a decision, which that's a tough decision. Because it's like right when you hear the news of the defeat and knowing they're coming, it's like you have to make the decision now and you're gambling because you could try to run, but you know they catch up, but it's also like staying here, you're kind of, it's like you'd rather, I think he says, we'd rather face death on our terms or something like that, where it's like, instead of being out in the open vulnerable, we're just going to have to bunker down.
There's a lot of good discussion of war in this, I think.
Especially it's war strategies, when they were talking about like that, you said like
the horns of the buffalo.
Yeah. I was more thinking about just the effects of it on those soldiers.
I mean, you had the one guy that was like looking bug-eyed and screaming at the top of his lungs and the bottom bone.
I was talking more like after when Michael Caine was, what's the speech he gives at him?
It's at the end when he's like, "Is this how it always feel? How you feel? And how do you feel? Sick, and I feel ashamed." And he's like, "Is this how you always feel?" He goes, "You think I can stand this slaughter?"
Wasn't the response to "I feel sick"?
Butcher's Field, there we go.
Don't you have to be alive to be sick?
Yeah, don't you?
Or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just you have
to be alive to feel sick.
Yeah.
And again, that will tie into another point of mine of how people can interpret this as Victorian propaganda, as I call it. Like, oh, there's 11 Victorian crosses handed out, and is this like pro-British military? It's not super triumphant when the battle's over. You're just wiped out. There's dead bodies everywhere. You just because it's my favorite shot of the movie. That one after the column firing and they cease fire and it's just that sea of death and you feel sick. And then it pans over to them in that circle. There's smoke everywhere and there's no music. There's no big cheers. They're all just. And that's what I appreciate. It's not celebrating where it's very anti-war.
It is anti-war.
And when you know where the director is coming from too, it makes sense. And now we'll talk about Cyril Enfield is his name, I believe. So it goes by Cy. He's done I watched one of his movies last year called Hell Drivers.
That's a hell of a name.
Has Stanley Baker as the main character, and it's like they work for this. It's like anti-capitalist. They drive for they're truck drivers for a company, and they like push them to go way over the limit and be reckless to make deliveries on time.
Okay.
Like, and there's competition.
I like this director.
So Cy Enfield originally he's from Scranton, as we said.
Yeah.
He was part of the Mercury Theater that Orson Welles had.
Oh.
He, in the 50s, I believe, 40s or 50s, I think it was the 40s, he made a short called Inflation because he was anti-capitalist. I don't know if he was communist, but had communist ties, something like that. He got blacklisted. That must have been in the 50s. He got blacklisted. So he relocated to England. And when he got over there, he was making movies. Hell Drivers, one of them. I think another one's like, it was like Dangerous Playground is another one. He made like seven or eight movies with Stanley Baker. And he read an article, I believe the name of the magazine was Lilliput, something like that. And it was called Slaughter in the Sun, and it was about the Battle of Rorke's Drift. It was written by John Preble, who was an English communist writer person. Mm-hmm. So they got together and they wrote the screenplay for this, and that's when Stanley Baker, who was like a big deal in Britain at the time, created Diamond Films, and this was, I believe, the first movie. To understand how big Stanley Baker was in Britain, he turned down James Bond. They went to him before Sean Connery for Bond.
He would have been an interesting James Bond.
Yeah, but he didn't want to sign on for multiple pictures. That's why he said no. That's how bankable of a star he was over there. And could you imagine how different his career would have been if he was James Bond? Yeah. He died in his 50s, I believe. So it's not like he would have had a super long career, but you never know what would have happened because you ask someone our age, they have never heard of him. Yes, people my parents' age, they probably never heard of him. Then you ask someone who watches like my dad's age, who watches movies that we did, and you say, "Oh, it's what's his name from the Guns of Navarone, one of the minor characters." They go, "Oh, that guy." Guns of Navarone's great. Stanley Baker, when I saw him in it, I was like, "Hey, there he is." He barely said anything. He's not in it that much. It feels like, because you got Gregory Peck, you got David Niven, you got these, I think Anthony Quinn, you got these big names. It's like Stanley Baker being a big British star in this is kind of reduced to like fifth billing or whatever. It's like, that's a shame because I like Stanley Baker. So he is like he and Cy Enfield are like the driving creative force behind this movie. And they shot it in Africa. They didn't shoot it on the actual spot of the battle, but they were near it. I think it's a lot more flat and deserty or something, I thought I read, but I think there's something there now. So they couldn't go, but they were in South Africa. They were on location for the exteriors. All the interiors were done in a studio.
That makes sense.
Because I don't think James Booth, even the outside shot of him, when they're doing roll call at the end to see who's still alive, I don't even think that was there. I don't think James Booth went to Africa with them. So, and it's crazy because they do a really good job. Because there are shots.
Honestly, I didn't know what that roll
there
call
are shots,
scene, I couldn't tell.
Well, the roll call scene is outside, but his shot is probably not. Because it's one shot of him outside. I'm saying, when I know if you're looking out the roof, it's only the sky. You're looking out a window. They just have a couple things, but they do a really good job because you're cutting from inside to outside a lot.
Yeah, no, they did a great. I mean, you telling me that it's shocking because they did a good job too. Yeah,
so they were filming on location. They used real Zulu warriors, and then had the descendant of Cetewayo play his great great grandfather. There were reports that because apartheid was a thing, that they couldn't pay them. They did pay them. I don't know the amounts. It's probably on Wikipedia or something, but they did pay them, and I believe they did give them the cattle after the shoot was over. The original story is they couldn't pay them because of apartheid, so they gave them all the animals used on set. But then I read no, they were paid. Later, people found out they were paid, and then I believe they got the cattle. The oxen.
That's a neat deal.
Yeah. They had never, I think I heard a lot of them had never seen a movie.
Huh.
And Stanley Baker, at the end of days, would screen movies for them, outside, to, show them.
That's cool.
Yeah, and according to, I can't pronounce his name. I feel like Cetewayo's descendant. I'm gonna completely botch that name, but he said it was a great working relationship and people were treated well, and he enjoyed the movie and thought it was respectful. That's from the 60s. Mm-hmm. So, different perspectives now, but if he says it, I believe that it was a good working environment. And different people can have different takes of this. And if you are like a historian who looks at this a certain way and deems it not, that'd be an interesting take to hear, because there are people in the last couple decades that are not big fans of it, but I don't think the discourse is as big as there are a lot of people who do like it. Mm-hmm. It's one of those movies that if you look at it from a distance, you kind of go, oh, right. But then when you actually watch it and then you actually read up on it, it's not just that simple.
So basically you're telling me that whoever on the internet that you're referring to is doing
There's definitely one singular review of this that has irked him.
I saw other reviews that were lower, whatever. There was one, I won't say the name, don't need to.
Don't give him
but I remember I read it out loud to Jake, and I'm going, okay, some of these are preferences. Some of these are just wrong.
Historically wrong.
They called it, and making it a siege made it uncomfortable. Yeah, that's not a siege. Do you know what a siege is?
Google siege is free.
Yeah, I was going to say, siege, you surround them and you cut off all their resources. You wait them out. They didn't do that. They charged right at them. Yeah. And they didn't wait them out. The battle was I think it was the afternoon till late in the night. There was no second day. They did that for the movie. We'll get into that in a second. But that's one of the things I was like, okay, this is just wrong. Did you watch the movie? That's what makes me mad.
My question was, you don't have a problem with people having issues with this.
There's nothing wrong
as they speak from a place of, I've actually done a bit of research and I still just don't.
If you're uncomfortable with it, you are free to be uncomfortable with it. If you don't like it, I don't care. You can like or dislike anything you want. If you have historical evidence or certain reasoning for things, I'd like to hear it. But I've not seen any good ones. I'm not calling this perfect. I love it. I know what I gave it. I usually didn't give it. I'm like, you know what? I'm so angry, and I really think I'm just giving it a 10.
I think I did the same thing.
I'm like, I don't care anymore. I'm just so mad. It's like I had a bad day at work. I'm getting McDonald's, and I'm getting more than I need because I need to feel good. That's how I felt.
No, I think if we want to talk scores, I would not have given it a 10 if I had not listened to History Buff's video about it.
It's great
Almost
channel.
Immediately after watching it.
Yeah, he does. Well, Nick Hodges and his crew. There's other people that work on it. Every video they make is great.
I looked to see if Real History had one about it, but
I wonder if he only does. No, he's been doing Masters of the Air lately. So that was gonna say, was it only American stuff? No,
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but so there is discourse. There's people who, retrospectively are not as fond of it. It's considered one of the great British movies, not like Lawrence of Arabia or The Third Man, like top 10, but it makes lists. It gets up there. I think it was Total Film in 2017 did a top however many British, and it was 93rd. I think it was top 100. It was like 93rd. I think the BFI ranked the top 100 in like 2005 or something, and then it was like 35th. I think it made Empire's top 500 from, they keep doing more, that same list, but the list I remember from like 2008 or whatever, it was like, it's like 300 something. So like it makes some lists. Got nominated for BAFTA for like production design or something like that. Way back when I did YouTube, I did videos I did a couple where it was snubbed, where like movies I believed should have been nominated for stuff. It was the third and final one I did. It's probably the best thing I ever made on that channel because the first it's like half hour long, and like the first 10 minutes is all the history leading up to like what I've just told you on this is because I rewatched the first section because after that it's going like category by category, like, oh, Michael Caine should have been nominated because he's so good in this.
He is good in this.
And it's funny getting into his story because, as he said, thank goodness it was an American director because if it was a British actor, he would not have picked me to play this role because of the difference in like where he's from in Britain and the accent, because he's putting on an accent. You can tell that's not his accent. Mm-hmm. He tried out to play Hook. And
Michael Caine did?
Yep, originally, and didn't get it. So then I thought I heard they had him try for Bromhead because they were leaving soon to go shoot. And then apparently he was told it was the worst screen test they had ever seen.
And they gave it to him.
I think he said, like, I owe my career to the long bar at whatever pub they were at, because he said, because it was so long, as I'm walking away, it's so far away to get out of there. By the time I'm getting to the end of the bar, I hear, come back. Because they probably realize, okay, this is probably the best we have. They bring him with him. He's the stand-up performance that launches his career. Legendary actor now.
God. Yeah, he is.
2 Oscar wins out of 6 or 7 nominations, something like that. Like just legendary career, and it all starts there.
Recently, sometime this year, he said he was finally going to retire. Homie's 90-some years old.
I know.
Good for him. He had a full, well-lived life.
Still love that quote about Jaws the Revenge. He's like, I've not seen Jaws the Revenge. I've seen the house it paid for.
I love Michael Caine in that movie.
Isn't he also the one that said,
dump truck
they show up with a dump truck full of money at my house. What am I going to do? Do it? No.
Michael Caine's he's a real dude. I
don't even know what movie. It might have been even Jaws 3.
It could have
Jaws
been.
the Revenge.
Yeah, he was not in Jaws 3D. He was in. Was that 4 or 5? That was Revenge.
I think it's 4.
It was 4.
And he can't retire. He's got to be in more Christopher Nolan movies.
Yeah, that is true.
Although he wasn't in Oppenheimer, was he? Although it wouldn't make sense for him to be in Oppenheimer.
Yeah, there really isn't anything there for him.
But
he should have played Einstein. No, sorry.
But he has the best arc in this because he's clearly no one really has an arc but him.
He clearly grows
but
from
he is the
being
one.
a dick to less of a dick.
And he's still kind of a dick. But, I mean, I watched this. I'm like, wow. I don't know if I've ever seen him play a villain. I like it. He's got.
He's not really a villain. He's one of the protagonists.
Well,
but it's not like he's good. If anything, you can't stand him at the beginning.
No, I couldn't. I'm like, well, this guy's an ass.
Oh yeah, up on the horse, up above everybody. Chard's down in the water with his men, and Brom heads up there. He's got the cape over him. He's got like the what is that? Like the whip brush
I know what
thing.
you're talking about.
And he's just like, now who told you could use my men? They were laying around on their backsides doing nothing. Rather you'd act next time, old boy.
Yeah, okay.
And then there's this great thing. He goes, yeah. I just laugh every time. But it's like he's up on his horse, and then as they figure out that Chard has seniority, it was farther away in real life, but in this, to make it for some reason a little more closer, it was a couple months. Mm-hmm. But the second Chard takes over, he is just this little baby about it. It's like those cavalry guys could have helped them.
That's why he's got so much eyeliner. He had to appear emo.
There you go.
That makes sense.
But that moment when the cavalry comes in, and for a moment they're like, "Oh, we got some help," and then they're like, "We're getting out of here. We just got away from them. We're not staying." And then he's like, "Bromhead, you know this guy. Help me." And then later they ask, like, he was like, "Wow, the thing about being in charge, old boy, is you're on your own. That's the first lesson the general, my grandfather, ever taught me." And you're like, "Oh my gosh, dude,
punch him,
punch him." It's the Indiana Jones. We are going to die.
Yeah,
it's like
that's not exactly the mood.
And here he is being all, wow, you want to be in charge? Okay. And he's still a little bit, but as everything escalates, and a lot of people say the turning point is when he gets the flying platoon to plug holes, he trades his saber for a rifle. And most people say that's like the symbolic flip of the leaf for the character, because then after that, the rooftop fighting where he keeps pushing forward and he's shooting down, and like and his corporal is like, "Sir, get back," but he's just into it's like that's like, okay, he's coming through for them, when before it's like, is he just gonna be hurtful the whole time? But he takes charge for it when Chard gets that like neck injury.
Yeah.
And that's that "we need you, old boy," which I think is it on the back of one of these? There it is. There's the "we need you."
Oh yeah. Yeah, quite a collection over there, dude.
Yeah.
You know what was really this is random, really, really random. The exchange they have in the very beginning of the movie when they're watching people on horseback come down the ridge and they're looking through the binoculars and, "Oh, these are a magnificent invention,
Fine
aren't they?"
things these are, aren't they?
Yep.
Owen, sir. The body told.
It really illustrates how old what's happening is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's just the thing is, like, some of the language, some of the way they talked.
Well, they're Welsh. Mostly Welsh.
Well, I mean, being Welsh and just
look at him, he runs like a Welshman.
And just being that old. Like, that, it's so hard. Like, it was entertaining and interesting to watch, but it's so hard to get that invested when there's that much of a language barrier. At least for me, personally. But it's just something to note.
They're still speaking English, though.
Well, it's so drastically different. Like, there's a lot of, like, words they use that I didn't know what they were talking about. But, sorry.
Okay.
We'll let Jared
Yeah,
do that.
I was just going to say, there's something I noticed, and I've seen this countless times. I haven't kept track of every time. I've probably seen this 15, 20 times. Yeah. And there's a wide shot of when they're building the bridge, and you got where they've dammed it off and the water's trickling over, and you can see Owen sitting there on the side where he first runs into it, and I was like, not that that's any kind of great bit of continuity, like it's like makes sense, but I've watched this countless times. After he's doing that, he goes over and he's sitting there going, singing, and he's like conducting to himself. But then in that first shot, before we've even met anyone, it's like, oh, there he is. That's why you have continuity, people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was just something I noticed this time, like 20 times in, and I noticed this. And it's like, well, the trouble is, sir, you've got my top tenor down in the cold water. He's the choir, like the head of the choir, and he's like, you guys have a choir. It's a Welsh regiment, sir. All Welsh regiments have a choir.
I will say one thing. the first time you see the cook, which is the first time you see like the big pots of soup, I thought that it was like laundry water because it looked gross. And I was like, you are not going to take a drink of it. And he takes a drink of it and you go, oh.
Well, they said it was like, it was like old, it was like horse fat and axle grease or something. And that's like what they have. And then he's like, what's that? He told me to throw it on the fire. And it's like, what? He told me to put it out on the fire. You did. And it's like there's probably some military precedent thing that I don't know about from the 1870s British thing, but it's like, and then like they're trying to sort out the fact that the battle at Islandwana had happened. They're like, and then this cook guy is like, sir, I'm supposed to throw out all the soup, and then Brahman's like, what? It's like the teacher, you're dealing with something serious, and the student's like, I broke my pencil. And then lady's like, am I to have a rifle too, sir? And he just ignores him. I go, yep. He's like talking to a kid. poor cook. Like,
he's the only person where I was like, not the cook.
Yeah, I think I audibly said, not the chef.
Oh, and he was big. He landed on the other guy. I was like, ooh. Yeah, I wonder, could you, outside of Stanley Baker and Michael Caine, and probably like the color sergeant because he's the big guy with the sideburns and the red sash, did all the others kind of blend in together? Other than like Hook.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, because I've noticed when you watch it enough, you start to distinguish things like Hitch is a minor character in this, even though he's one that got across, and he's like the company clown a little bit, but you don't get a lot of time to shine. He's the one that they're getting shot at from up on the hills by their own damn bloody rifles. And he like gets up, he takes his pith helmet off, and he gets up and he's firing, and Corporal Allen is like, get down, you idiot. And I'm like, he's going to get hit, and he does, because he's way out in the open, and that's where he gets it in the leg, and then Allen gets it like right in the shoulder, and that's what that weird thing of like, ah! And he like pulls him down with him. And you recognize that after they were down, they were sitting outside after being bandaged up, and after the cook, I can't remember the other guy's name, go down, they go over there and they start handing out the bullets. And that's why they got their crosses. There were 11 handed out. I think it might be the most in one engagement in British military history, at least up to this point in time.
I mean, we said it when we were discussing Dunkirk. All British boys look the same.
Yeah, they kind of do.
Yeah. Maybe that's why Michael Caine needed eyeliner to distinguish him.
Yeah.
Distinguished.
And then
he looked like his eyelashes got curled upward too.
Yeah, they really did. He really looked like a pretty boy.
They were like, whoo! And I was like, I had to call my wife over and be like, what's going on here?
I wonder, because he has like a reddish hair, like a reddish blondish hair.
Yeah, and
I wonder if because of like his eyebrows. And just the shape of his face, you couldn't see his eyes.
Well,
something. So it's like
pulling that hat down. That looks so uncomfortable.
You have to.
The thing was though, they all had on like you could see it. Like I understand why.
Oh, for that sun.
But he like had eyeliner.
I wonder if they really couldn't. It's like, okay, we can't see his eyes. We still can't see him. You know what I mean? I bet you that's why.
I bet.
Again, it looks. For having a lot of that be, like the exteriors, of course, be natural lighting, it looks really good.
It does. I mean, it helps when you actually...
Like those landscape shots.
Appreciate the quality here, but isn't it crazy when you go on location to some places like that? It just looks better. It's almost as if you
I need a computer screen.
It's almost as if you should do that more often. Go places.
Computer screen. Computer screen.
I'm split because I love... like studio work if it's real. If it's just all like green screen or like the digital background, no. But like actual like production design inside, I don't mind it. I think it looks cooler.
I mean, that's true. If you
at times
we're all knocking the digital display, but when they first started using them in like the first season of The Mandalorian, we were all like, whoa.
I thought it looked cool, and I believe I did make a comment around the time like, is this going to eliminate jobs of set designers and
I feel like
not prop people, but like production designers and people who like do this? That's going to eliminate jobs. Not all of them, of course. They'll never go away, but that's going to get rid of a lot of jobs.
Yeah, I remember talking about that.
It's a cool thing, but again, sci-fi world, it works.
Yeah,
they use it for like everything. And it looks bad.
There's a new, not to go on too much of a tangent, but there's a new Percy Jackson show that I was very excited about because I love the books. And they overuse that damn display, and every time I see it, I'm just like, this just hurts. Just stop.
Yeah, but then also that's like, is that something that they can make, though?
Yes, they were filming on a beach.
Oh,
There's a part of the book that takes place on a California beach.
It's just a beach, like it's
It's
a
just
normal.
a beach at night. That's it. That's where the whole scene takes place.
No, like
It's-
crazy waves with sea monsters or
There's
Greek gods or anything like that.
There's one, but again, the fight scene from the book, you do not need to use the. Well, I keep forgetting the term of it, like the digital background. You don't need to use that. You can film on location and then add in post production like CGI.
Well, you know they did it because it's easier.
Well, I know why they do it.
Yeah, I'm just saying,
I
like,
I wonder
unfortunately,
if it's cheaper
that's
now at this point too.
Yeah, and I recognize that. I mean, especially for Zulu. I mean, taking a whole crew to Africa. I mean, that's costly. That costs a lot of money. I recognize that. That's not for everything that can do. But when you do it, it just looks better.
I will say that this, in terms of how it is shot and the color palette, reminds me a lot of like your Lawrence of Arabia's, and I don't know if that's just kind of a
go-to,
but also kind of a thing of the 60s.
I mean, I feel like it is. I feel like the wide vistas and then chopped, and then when you edit that together with the close-ups of faces, it just it feels like it manages scope perfectly.
Well, they're both British war movies. They're both historical epics. They both are, they're 2 years apart in the 60s.
Oh, yeah.
Makes
That's
sense
fair.
why you'd play that comparison. Like, it's not really a comparison, because Lawrence of Arabia is like one of those all-time greats.
Yeah.
Don't I have the Lawrence of Arabia version of that Criterion?
You have something, I remember.
I have a sealed DVD copy of it.
I have a copy that's Laserdisc, but I don't remember what it specifically is. But, yeah, but it all comes back with the thing about filming. It's like, Stephen Dade was the cinematographer for Zulu. Great job. He also, the techniques used to film the battle scenes have become some of the most influential. The biggest influences, Peter Jackson specifically cites Zulu as the inspiration for the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Really?
That would make sense.
I
Like the way it's filmed, the way it's set up, like the editing of it too. Like that's what he has said numerous times, because that was one of his favorite. Because he's a big war and history buff.
Mm-hmm. They do a lot of steady cams, like with the moving and all the bodies, and
Yep.
and I can absolutely see how that translates.
I love the shot. It's that shot getting closer to, I think it's the north wall. I can't remember if it's the north or south wall. Right at the start where all of them just with the guns out. Mm-hmm. That's a great shot. There's some great crane shots in it too.
There's some great cranes.
Of course, the shot I mentioned before, where they're at the end where it just sweeps up to them in that little circle, like, and when you
everything with the mountains in the background, the way they play with the perspective.
That is one of the most intimidating. Well, it might be the most intimidating shot in the entire movie, when they realize that the Zulus are there and they're just all
on the mountains.
They just stand up on the ridge, and they're just like there's.
The music, you hear the music, the do-do-do, do-do-do, and you see it's because you see the shields. And a bunch of them were just shields because they're there aren't as many extras, the Zulu extras, as there are the people that were actually there back then. But it's like you hear the do-do-do, and it's panning over. And then once you hit the body, the head and loins, you hear the bump, 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 and it's like, and what could have made you think, oh, this might be like a fake or a miniature? You see the British soldiers in the foreground and in the midground, like looking, just their backs turned. It's like, imagine, and that's another thing about like when people just write it off as, oh, we're supposed to just like the British for being. It's like, just put yourself in their shoes where you're forced to be there as a soldier, and they're coming, and you just see them line up like that. I'd be scared out of my mind.
I mean, are they probably? Again, this is me not knowing my history. Were they drafted similarly to the way that Americans did?
I don't know for sure. I know in like Hook's case, according to the movie, not real life.
Yeah.
He was a thief who was sent because it happened. It happened over here too for a while. It's like you can go to jail or you can join the military. Mm-hmm. So
I think all of them are like required to serve.
I don't think so.
No?
The only one I know of is like Israel has that thing where it's like you have to serve at least like 4 years or something.
I thought.
I don't think
Maybe it's
so.
like a royal family thing, and that's where I'm getting that from.
Actually, that might be
could
real.
make sense.
But-
that's true.
Yeah, well.
But
Yeah.
but yeah, that's where it's like it is the same with Gettysburg. Like you take the human element out of it because these are not the kings and prime ministers of these countries that are colonizing, and these aren't these glory obsessed officers that plunge headfirst into countries to colonize. These are just normal guys that are here because they're forced to be, and they're fighting for their lives. Again, they're not doing anything heinous to the Zulus outside of the defending themselves and all. Killing's bad.
I think that's.
But like, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't have a scene of them like capturing and torturing them or anything.
I think that's a bit easier to do with this than it is with Gettysburg.
Little different with
Because
the
There's
politics
not as
of
much,
it.
like, ground level time spent with either side, but like you talk about, not to go back because we talked about it for so long, but no one on the British side like is as significant to like General Lee is like a person people idealize, and it's such a figure. You don't get that from this.
Yeah. Or we don't.
I was saying
We're not
we
British.
Don't, I don't know. That
I don't know.
But I don't think there are statues of Frederick Hitch. Like he's known because he got a cross from a Victoria Cross, but like I don't think there's a bunch of statues for other reasons.
Yeah. And I also did think that, especially from, and I don't remember the character's name. I mean, in the very beginning, like the father and the daughter that were watching.
The wits.
That was really weird.
Well,
the way they were talking about them during the marriage ceremony, I was very uncomfortable.
I was uncomfortable,
and it's because it's like he's the one that's explaining to her, and she's like another reason of like a white person who is racist.
Oh, 1000%.
Not trying to be outwardly racist, just she's uncomfortable with this.
Yeah.
And
because she's like, what is she? She says something that is negative, and he's trying to correct her. Not like it's pushing back up, but it is showing like, okay, she's scared,
but
because she's racist.
But then he's also talking about them like they're animals. Like it's got that vibe to it.
Yeah.
Which is also like, again, who are the people who have the worst behavior in this movie? The white people, the British, and then the wits. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and then they drive him to drink.
I will say.
Oh, he's already a drunk.
Yeah. The one thing that I especially got from that scene, at least about what, and this is why I always thought that we should be rooting for the Zulu people, is because in the beginning it seemed like they were sitting there on their ceremony because he said they were trying to make peace. They were trying to, and then you saw the actual,
I spoke of peace and a war has started is the line.
Yeah.
I took that more as he was trying to advocate for peace between the two.
Yes.
Not the Zulus.
Well, yeah, but still, like, he was, and then when you like compare that to Michael Caine and all of them, it's like, okay, yeah, these guys are the bad guys. That's at least how my brain worked it through.
We probably mentioned it, but then like whenever someone discredits the Zulus, there is someone in the same scene instantly reprimands them.
I was gonna say usually in like response to what they say,
because they say something about Zulus, and the Swiss guy says, "What do you know about Zulus?" Bunch of savages is what they say. He goes, "Huh? How far can you march in a day?" And like, I don't know, what is it, like 8 miles?
Was a good scene.
Well,
like
a Zulu warrior can run 50 miles and fight a battle at the end of it. And he's like, "Well, I don't see why you'd want to run to a battle."
It's not the
Like
point.
right away reprimands him. And then of course like you have the African workers or soldiers that died with the British at San Juan, and Michael Caine's character Bromhead makes a racist comment. He calls them cowardly, and right away Adendorf, the Boer guy who is helping them out with the strategy, he's like, what the hell do you mean cowardly? They died on your side. Right away is like, what are you talking about? Like those are like the two big moments of like literally they're making a bad statement and instantly someone calls them out and says you're wrong. And that's what drives me crazy. People are like, look how racist this is. It's like if you have a case for something that's historically based and explain it to me, I'd like to hear it. But the things that I've caught, there are responses to that discredit what those British guys say. Yeah. So, and that's what I appreciate about it. That's why I think it has aged better than a lot of its contemporaries.
I can see that, absolutely.
Yeah. And I know we went off on this big tangent, but Stephen Dade's camera work and In Two Towers, but Helm's Deep, you see it has changed the landscape a bit. I don't know about right away, but like it has changed stuff in the future that's big. And also a lot of it goes to John Jimpson did the editing, and the way he cuts around the battle. Incredibly well paced movie. Like a lot of people say, like, I was bored at the beginning. You know what you're talking about, and it's like it's 68 minutes before the battle starts, and then the battle takes up over an hour.
It's a long battle,
and it flies by for me. It's always flown by, like, because you're interested in the little scenes because there's a lot of characters, but you never feel the weight of it because they're all in one place. They all have similar goals, and like
it did not fly by for me, but for altogether
for a different reason, you had to keep pausing it.
Yeah,
but John Jimpson's editing, that's another thing. I think I said in my video, like, this is like really good editing. Like that's a tall order, like any big historical epic is, but like. Yeah, and I was looking at other movies he's done, which one of them we watched for this channel a couple of years ago.
Oh.
Where Eagles Dare.
Oh.
He also edited. He also has edited Hitchcock's Frenzy, The Beatles' A Hard Day's Night, Little Shop of Horrors, the musical adaptation, A Fish Called Wanda, and Kelly's Heroes, and In and Out. And there are others. King Ralph with John Goodman. So he... quite the interesting career, but him and Stephen Dade together, like, just that's what makes those battle scenes outside of the music and the sound and the performances, like, that's what makes the battle work so well and flow so well, is how you're supposed to be paying attention to what's going on in the strategy, but it's cut together so well. Because they probably clean it up a little better so we can understand what's going on, because things happen fast. Mm-hmm. Because you have, like, the Horns of the Buffalo is the Zulu one, where you charge in on the head, and the horns disperse around you, and then the head opens you up to the loin, as they call it, where all the experienced warriors are. They surround you. And then the British have some tactics where, like, they're in the circle. They don't have enough guys to cover both walls at once. So they get the flying platoon to plug holes, and then they do the thing where you have the lines of the flying platoon, like, the back ones fire, go forward, then the ones stand up.
That's what I was talking about when we were talking in Gettysburg. Why I was curious why that wasn't happening.
Yeah, so that's one, and then of course the way that they end up holding them off on the next morning when they do the three lines and it's just volley after volley, which that's intense. Like the cutting in that especially is just so good. Just the things they cut to and the yelling, the front rank fire, second rank fire, just all that. Mm-hmm. And again, the cease firing and it's just quiet. Like, I get chills every time during that scene. Like it's not super long. It's like a minute or two. And that comes after, like, one of the big scenes that the movie's known for, which is the singing battle. Which didn't happen. But I think I think it's really cool.
It is cool, but it doesn't surprise me. That's probably not super historically accurate.
Because you have the Zulus doing their chant, and it's very loud and very intimidating. And it works because you get that big like rising vocal, and it's all in unison, and you're just like, oh. Yeah. And then he asks Owen to sing "Men of Harlech," an old British song. So you have the small group singing, and it's cutting back and forth. You're hearing them at the same time. And it's like, I know this didn't happen. There wasn't a second day, but cinematically, this makes a lot of sense because the battle ended in the middle of the night.
Do you want to know what that reminded me of that we just watched last week for your
top two movies have had singing battles?
Yep.
Yeah, I just realized I'm like, oh my god, Casablanca did the same thing. That's
and
funny.
They're both very memorable, very good scenes.
Yeah, that's
that
really
singing
funny.
scene is the singing scene is the scene of this movie that I have seen, that I saw before seeing the movie itself.
Was this your first time seeing the movie?
Same with you?
Yeah.
I wouldn't. It's not like it's an incredibly popular movie.
I would say no.
Like, it is, for like history people and like film people and British film people.
Mm-hmm.
But like I'm not expecting the only reason people around me know about it is because of me.
The only reason I know about it is because of you.
And it's
the only reason I know about it is because of your Newbert video.
Which we'll get to when I get to the physical ones, but yeah, like there's you, the two of you, and then there's two others, one of them being Hammy, that all four of you have watched it because of me.
Didn't Nick watch
I think
it?
it was Nick, yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah, so it's like when I go to it's like, oh yeah, that's right, like it's all people that I know watched it because they know it's my favorite movie, or in like this case we had to watch it to cover it. So yeah. So one of the big inaccuracies is the character of Hook, which I said earlier, Bromhead has the only arc. Hook is the other one with the arc. Fixing something.
You could see the white under.
Oh, gotcha.
It got a little disheveled here. Much better.
So Henry Hook, played by James Booth, or Hooky as they call him in the movie, his arc is he's lazy. He's in the hospital because he claims to be sick, and also like he's in trouble, and he ends up being a hero because he gets everyone out, helps get people out of the hospital when it's on fire and fighting. Like it is one of those things of like he's sitting around doing nothing. He's like no, I've never done anything that the army asked for. Well, I'm asking you. Well, why didn't you bloody say so? And he ends up being like the hero of the hospital in that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the whole, you have Maxfield going like, I made a soldier out of you. Ah! So it's like, that's the other arc. It's like, it's a good arc, and James Booth is great in this role. The real guy was a pretty upstanding person who is a hero of the battle, for getting everyone out of there. And his family, his descendants, when the movie came, were not happy. It was like his two daughters, elderly daughters at this time, like walked out of the premiere. They were pissed.
Oh.
It is one of those things. It's like it was changed for the sake of the movie. I really like it as a part of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing it's inaccurate is kind of like it kind of sucks, because if it was my family that it happened to, I wouldn't be happy either.
Yeah, I totally understand not being happy at that.
But there's like probably the most colorful character outside of Bromhead. And that scene where Reynolds, one second, making sure I got the surgeon, when he like has to get his boil, the sound effect.
Oh, I cringed.
Where he's like,
I
bet a spot of brandy will do. No, there's there's a boil for every soldier in Africa or something like. And this is going to hurt you a lot more than me, I'm happy to say. And then you hear like a when he's scraping.
Oh, that
he gives this wonderful little. Because it's like, yeah, that hurt. Yes, that's how you react. Man, is that just a funny soundbite?
I wonder if that's why this movie is so funny.
Because the colorful characters.
Well, to give them some levity as being people that are about to fight.
You kind of have to, otherwise it'd just be
people.
bleak.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've watched plenty of bleak things.
That's
so
true. That is true.
Hard to make that the primary argument, I suppose.
Things don't have to be bleak. Sometimes you don't have to go that way.
I'm sorry. Have you ever watched Attack on Titan?
No.
Things have to be bleak.
There's like nothing happy in that show.
There's nothing happy in that show.
It
doesn't get better either.
It gets worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, gets more of that.
Yeah. My James Booth story is years ago. I'm watching Twin Peaks, and there's this old like con man, like weaselly guy in season 2 who shows up, and he says, he's got to be in his 50s or 60s, and I'm just staring at him this whole episode. His name's like Ernie, and I'm going, where have I seen you? Then I realize, wait a minute, is that Hooky? And I look up, it's James Booth. That's Hooky. There he is in Twin Peaks. almost 30 years later, it's like, wow, he looks pretty much the same, just older.
Funny, yeah.
But that's just a fun little
it's a distinguished face.
That's the only other thing I've seen him in too. So it was like that's kind of fun to see him.
Impressive.
Yeah, but it's a good performance and a very interesting character. And he's a jerk. And he treats people terrible. And he still breaks through it. Like, they're getting out of the hospital and he still breaks into the brandy case and has to have a swig.
You mean
and my
during
dad,
the fire?
Yep, and every time that happens, my dad goes, he's still just as redeemable as you want him to be. He still can't help but break the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's less about breaking the rules and more about alcohol addiction or just addiction in general.
Yeah. It does make me chuckle. It's like the building around you is collapsing under fire, and he's taking time to do that one. But then the guy goes, "Okay, that's a flogging offense." I'm like, "You really gonna turn him in for that? The whole thing's gonna burn down. Who cares?
Yeah.
They're not gonna know."
I'd probably do the same thing.
I know. You do it if the building wasn't on fire. You just smash it.
Why not? It could be fun.
Dickey playing Edward 40 Hands over here.
I've never played the game, but it would be fun.
I don't believe that you have never played that game.
I never have. I showed my age. Edward 40 Hands was before my time. Sorry, Jake. That hurt you a little bit, didn't it?
You take that burn to the heart, Grandpa. Sorry, but you just sat there. You just let him go. I'm just showing my age, and then you're just staring at it like nothing. Not even a reaction.
That one hurt.
You didn't hear me go.
So you did react.
Oh, no, Burial Cart was more my.
I gave him the Sam Neill growl.
More of a Burial Cart person.
Okay.
Back to Zoo. I was gonna say, so you have Hookie's actions where he's horrible to Maxfield, which, given the brief bits of history we're given, it's like, okay, so this guy has tormented Hookie because Hookie is also not he's a troublemaker in the movie, not in real life. But then it's like, yeah, another thing for the case of the British, like the worst things we see and hear are the British people, like because then the way they treat Margareta. It's like they're laughing, but the film doesn't present it as funny. Like, the one guy grabs her, just a kiss. And it's not presented as funny. And it makes me uncomfortable. It's supposed to.
I'm glad, that made
and
me
it's like, yeah, these guys are bastards.
That's why I was rooting for the Zulu people to win.
And it's like,
come on.
Seriously, I was like, screw these guys.
It's like, yeah, that's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be, and it's just... Yeah, and it's not presented as being funny because it's not funny. And what do we do instead of sitting inside at them laughing? We follow her outside as she's recovering. We focus on her feeling bad instead of them laughing at her, which that told me, okay, for sure, the movie is more on the side of, yeah, that's not okay.
Yeah.
Probably not as progressively minded as it sounds because it's a 60s war movie, but I think that part of it, it's like, yeah, it's uncomfortable. It's supposed to be.
I did say in the beginning of that obviously the 60s were still, like, there was a lot of progressive movements. So, they still had those ideals that were out there, but it wasn't as, strong as it is now.
Yeah. And, of course, we talk about Margareta. She was Ulla Jacobson. She was in a couple big movies. Like, she was in Smiles of a Summer Night, which is a Bergman movie, I believe. And then Fox and His Friends, which is... Fassbinder, however you say his name. So, a couple things. She actually, I believe, is Swiss or Swedish.
Oh.
Sorry, not Swiss, Swedish. I get it mixed up because that one guy is Swiss. But, and then they have Jack Hawkins, who's British, playing Otto Witt. Who you've seen Jack Hawkins in things before.
His face looks familiar.
He's in Lawrence of Arabia. He's in
that's right.
Bridge on the River Kwai. He's in, you haven't seen Ben-Hur. Like, I've seen him in a couple things.
He definitely looked... I saw his face. He looked familiar.
Say the name again.
Jack Hawkins. Just in a lot of the big epics, like Waterloo. Not that one. Nicholas and Alexandra. Oh, What a Lovely War, which is one of my favorite musicals. Like, just some pretty big stuff. I think I said Ben-Hur.
Yes, you did.
Okay, just... recognizable.
According to Letterboxd, I've seen 2% of his films, which amounts to
Probably Zulu.
Lawrence of Arabia.
You haven't seen Bridge on the River Kwai?
I started it and never finished it.
Too bad. It's great.
You know how hard it is. He's in Lola, too. Oh, sorry, that's What?
What are you talking about?
That says Lola. That says Twinkie.
Interesting. I don't like what else it says on that poster.
Let me look.
No, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like
by
that.
Richard Donner.
I don't want to see that Donner cut. Anyway. So Jack Hawkins was another one in my video. I believe I said, like, I would have given him a nomination. He's not in it that much, but he makes the most of every minute he's on screen. The drunken yelling right before, like, it's already bleak and hopeless. And he's like, you're all going to die.
That was quite a performance.
Yep. So, and then of course, like, I don't know why I laugh. I think it comes out to when it's good acting or good anything, and it's a movie I like in a moment that I like or remember. I just chuckle. But like you have the one guy. What is it? Cole. I only remember because they say his name at one part. You guys wouldn't catch it because you're focusing on first time viewing, whereas I've seen it. But he's the one that's guarding first, and he puts his face in there. What's it? Otto Whip puts his face in. Boy.
Oh, I know what you're on. Yeah.
Listen, boy. Just always laugh. And then he's getting all... And then Color Sergeant Bourne goes over and just, like, has the little baton thing. And that's enough.
You know...
You'll be a good lad. You're scaring the boys. Which I love.
You know what I
Color
did
Sergeant
think
Bourne.
was funny about him? There's that whole moment where he makes that deal with Shard to give me the wagons and I'll take the sick away. And then they turn over the wagons, and it's supposed to, like, it feels like it's supposed to be this, like, big moment. And then they just turn over the wagons, and it's like,
anticlimactic a
oh.
little bit. Yeah.
And then
I
he
didn't
pulls.
think that at all. I thought it worked very well. Because it's like, I'll give you the wagon, then his face, like, that face change, and it's turning him over because those are huge, and it's like, oh, you're not.
Maybe I just
Maybe
didn't
just-
understand how huge they were.
Well,
Yeah,
it was
because that's
also just
supposed to be give him we'll give you the wagons because he keeps pleading to get the sick and wounded out. Which if he does, they'll get slaughtered out in the open.
But also, it did give me like it was like a very simple movement. I think that's also why I felt a little anticlimactic. It's like,
But then it's followed by one of my favorite line deliveries where they flipped him. You see, it takes like 10 guys to flip him because they're big and heavy, and then just Otto grabs it and he's like, "Lord God, give me strength."
yeah, that's funny. Him trying to close that.
Yeah, but
Maybe that's why it kind of undercut it for me, too, is because they kind of make a joke of it.
I don't think it's supposed to quite be a joke, but it just his delivery makes me laugh.
Just
That's
a
fair.
quick little lighthearted, just to
Yeah.
mood up.
But then Color Sergeant Bourne is often a crowd favorite, and I don't know what it is. He's just got a likable face. He looks the most British of anybody there. The big sideburns, just kind of a little bit of indulgence, just this no nonsense attitude, just like during the roll call at the end, where it's like, "No comedians, please," and he goes, "Hitch, I saw you. You were alive." Oh, well, thank you very much.
Also, the way British people say cooperate.
Well, and I've said it, and like when I was saying people's names, I said lieutenant because that's how they say lieutenant.
Yep.
I don't know why, because I asked my dad that, and my dad doesn't know. He's like, that's just how they say it. And I go, why?
The Britishism.
Lieutenant, and it's spelled the same? Lieutenant. Okay.
I wonder
So
if
that mean
that's
there's a
originally
right
how
tenant?
it was supposed to be said, and we dumb Americans said, "That's not how you say that."
But like you look at the
But
spelling.
the spelling, there's no F though. Where the hell does the F come from?
Well, I guess I can go over to my big
Explain
display
your
here. If you're on
prop.
YouTube, you can see this.
Please turn on
So
YouTube.
I
This
have
boy's got a
1,
lot.
2, 3, 4, 5 different formats of Zulu, which I feel like there's got to be a 4K, or if not, there will be, and I'll probably buy that. But-
There's a real 35mm real version of it too.
Oh my god.
I need to get more.
I know I'm getting Jared for his next
More.
birthday.
Well, I hope there's a
I
CED
can't
of it.
find it. I've tried hard.
I could try to find a CED. You know what a CED is?
I have no idea. I know
It's like a Laserdisc disc, but it's in a big cartridge.
It's
heavy.
Division.
Interesting.
Yep. And then, what's the other thing that's not VHS or Betamax? There's another like tape type thing. I don't remember what it's called, but that might be one. But so I'm trying. So right here.
Let's start off with the old VHS.
Yep. So this is the original one that I first watched it on. It was my grandfather's. Is it rewound? No.
Be kind and rewind.
I don't have a way to rewind it.
We determined in Gettysburg that Jared's family is not a fan of being kind.
Except for if you want a quick little story of one of the first like sleepovers with my friends when we were in like 3rd grade.
You made them watch this?
Oh my
No.
God, I'd be so pissed.
I don't.
They were probably interested because
He watched it with me in high school with my other friends, and they loved it.
Jared's movie holds the record of all 3 of our top 10s for having the most boobs.
It does. Probably more than the rest of our movies combined.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah. But to get to my story, so we watched something on VHS 2003, so it would 3rd grade would have been about 2003, 2004. He was over, and we watched a movie, and I fell asleep. And before I'd fallen asleep, the movie we were going to watch wasn't rewound, so I had a fast rewinder. You remember
Did you
those.
fall asleep while it was rewinding?
Oh, no, it's funnier than this. So I showed him, we watched it. I fell asleep sometime during the movie. I wake up, and I hear the sound. He was so fascinated by a fast rewinder. He was rewinding all of our tapes. There's a giant stack of rewound tapes, and he's just and then he'd wait till to stop, and then he'd hit the button, and it'd pop up. And
Out here
in the case, set it there, grab the next one. I'm like, what are you? What are you doing?
This man out here doing the
I'm
Lord's
rewinding
work.
the tapes. I go, it's so much fun. I go, what?
Just throwing it out there from a kid trying to watch The Lion King. Those were the most inconvenient 2 minutes of my life.
Absolutely, it was.
But it's like if you rewind it in the VHS, it's like 5 to 10 minutes. I feel like to rewind it, it's much faster than the other things.
Listen, it took me. It felt like ages when I was a kid. It maybe was not.
It's wound around the things in there, so it takes longer. It doesn't go as fast. Whereas the fast one is just drilling it basically.
It's amazing. That's hilarious.
And before that, they had
in the VHS player.
Yeah,
because
isn't it before you had like fast rewinders like that? You had like the cranks you'd stick in there actually and move.
Oh,
like
I never
that.
had one of those.
But that's like older. We didn't have that. I'm saying that's like the older version where it's like you work it, but then the one we have is just it's about the size of the tape plugged in. You just pop it down and it rewinds.
Yeah,
We had that.
Yep.
It took 2 minutes and
it's like I can't wait this long. But I love this cover. I don't know. I probably just because of the nostalgia, but there's something about this that I love.
What is the design on the Zulu words?
I don't know. It just looks like generic artwork from an African country or tribe or something. Like that'd be interesting to look into. And it's funny because like the quotes. I feel like the quotes, was it one of these? One of these had like the same quotes on it. I can't remember. Stay. Come on.
It was interesting how they made the Zulu title the fire.
That was cool. And the thing in the middle between the U and the L like disappears a split, like one frame before they cut. Because it's a cool effect. It's like, okay. And then it's like right there, then the black line disappears and then they cut. I notice it every time. So this is
Doing
the original.
That in the 60s would be much more difficult than doing it now.
Just a little bit. Yeah, you can't just whip open After Effects.
So that's the
You
original.
don't even have to whip open After Effects anymore.
That's true.
So that's the original that I watched it on. Then later I bought the DVD, like a cheap MGM thing that came out in
Gas station
2006.
DVD.
This wasn't gas station. This was, I think this was
Walmart?
Amazon.
Damn.
Yeah, I didn't buy it in
Kinda like a
2006.
gas station.
Yeah, big gas station. But again, it's funny how like Michael Caine's not the main character, but because he's the most famous person to come out of the movie, he's like all over it. Whereas
He's
this one,
also the only one billed on that Blu-ray.
is he?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Just funny how like this one, it doesn't have he's billed second on here, but he's not near they're all down here with the credits. This is, where are you? 87. This is almost as old as you.
Yeah.
So like that's this, and then this one's 06, and he's billed third under Jack Hawkins, but he's the face on here. I don't think there's really any special features on here at all.
If it's an early 2000s DVD, there wouldn't be.
But then again, some of those are loaded with features. Look at the Lord of the Rings extended.
Yeah, but those are like special ones.
Yeah, even the theatrical ones, it was a 2-disc thing.
But not movie from 1964 that they put on DVD so people could buy.
I feel like my It's a Wonderful Life DVD has a bunch of features.
That is significantly different.
Yeah, but you're saying an older movie, which is older than this.
But that's also, especially in America, much more influential and popular.
Yeah.
And
You were saying an early 2000s disc wouldn't have much.
Yes, I'm weighing that against when it was created and the type of and like the popularity of that movie.
Yeah, the movie wouldn't have many features. I thought you were saying like early 2000s disc wouldn't have that much. It's like I've seen plenty have that.
Yes, that's also what I'm saying. For that movie, early 2000s DVD would not have that much on it.
Yeah, so that's what I watched with my friends on, the classic story of the opening dance and us being 15, 16. The opening scene, my friend, same friend who rewound all the tapes in 2003, now in 2010, zoom in, screaming it, and I'm telling him, I'm like, stop. Right as my dad walked in, yelling, zoom in. My dad didn't even notice. I was like,
I mean, come on. I would have done the same
Why do you need to zoom in? They're all over the place.
it was just, I don't know why he yelled that.
Well, you can't zoom in.
Yeah, so that's what I watched it. I probably watched it on the most, just because I got it in high school, had it up to a certain point, because then the next thing I bought was this Blu-ray. Now, the Blu-ray came out, well, it says 50th, celebrating 50 years, so it's got to be like 2014. Gonna make sure real quick. It says 2016, so more than 50 years. But I remember I saw like an Amazon review when I was going to get the DVD. This popped up later. Sorry, I got this. This popped up later, and I was like, I don't need to get this. It has low ratings. Because people say there's like no special features. It doesn't have the original soundtrack. And I was like, okay, because I don't think the DVD has. The VHS has the original recording of the soundtrack. I don't think the DVD does. There's some music rights thing that they lost.
I wonder if Peacock had the original.
I think it does. Sure. I think streaming it does. But then I heard like this doesn't have the original soundtrack. There's no features, so I stayed away from it. Then a couple of years go by. I'm out of college. And it's like, wait a minute. And I look at the ratings are up. I probably looked at it like the one day it didn't have a normal rating. And it's like, I bought it because this was my 1,000th physical media. I made a video where I fell down the stairs.
You should insert that video into the podcast here.
Yeah,
because it is just one of the funniest things I've ever seen.
That hurt. For context, it was a fake unboxing. The joke was I grabbed it and then I fall down the stairs.
And you fell down the stairs.
Well, I angled
it's
it so
hard to fake fall down the stairs.
I angled it so I could fall down the stairs fake and it wouldn't hurt. And my stairs, it goes down platform, lower platform, then more stairs. By the time I hit the first platform, I not only dropped the disc, like the whole case, I fell for real. And then near the bottom, I dropped my phone completely. It landed on the floor facing up, and you see the silhouette of my body crash on top of it. And that hurt.
So
they were carpeted stairs, but
there's
that
not much
hurt.
padding under them things.
And so but this was movie number 1,000, and I put it in, I go, there's like 5 featurettes on here. And I listened, I think this is the one I watched. I think that is the original score in there. What were these reviewers talking about? So yeah, the 1,000 discs. I'm now way over that.
So
Thanks.
it's 1,000 discs. It's
not, or movies.
Okay. Because I was going to ask, is this 3 or is this 1? in your collection of discs?
There's one disc in there.
I'm referring to.
He's talking about the 3 different copies.
Gotcha. They all count.
How does
It
that
all
work?
counts as one. Like this is one. This is one. This is one.
Counts
This is
them
one.
as releases.
And not just that. If you have a duplicate, it counts. Now, if I had 50 copies of Titanic, like that one guy on TikTok, or the one guy,
No. He's got 2,000 now.
or whatever, or like the guy that one of our friends went over for a school project and he had Shrek on VHS like 40 times on his
Hell
shelf.
yeah! That
Like-
man is my hero.
Like that. Like you'd count it, but it's kind of like you have that many.
minivan.
You have that many of the same copies, but like these all count. So I can't say just 1,000 movies.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. That's what I was curious. Thank you for
Yeah,
clarifying.
it's there's the minutia of collecting and how you count them that it's different for everybody,
Yeah.
different people, and that's just how I count. Because it's like, if this all counted as one, then why would I do that? Like they're different formats. They're two of the same, but there's a reason why. I'll have to get to that one. So at that point, I had just had these two, and then I was still borrowing this. When my grandfather passed away, I had it with me still, so I just kind of inherited it naturally.
Oh wait, those are the same cover, aren't they?
Yes, they are. I'm getting there. So then, 2019, our good old buddy, old pal of the podcast, Hammy, because I told him about this, not having the soundtrack, then realizing it said like the original soundtrack and a bunch of stuff. There's a Criterion Laserdisc of Zulu that's like, I don't know if I'd quite call it a white whale to find, but it's like, I'm not, I never really used eBay. I didn't really like go looking for it, but I'm like, that'd be incredible. He got this for me for Christmas. He's like, here, I got you a present. So in this bag is the stand. I'm like, what's the stand for? In my head, I'm going, he didn't. And then
When you saw the stand, you thought?
I pull this out. If you're looking online, it's the cover is the Zulu, the head guys that are doing all the spear pointing that's directing the army from the hilltop. It's got the Criterion thing at the top.
It's not opened.
There's plastic cover. I'm gonna take it out.
Okay.
And then the back, you have this giant, a couple paragraphs about the movie. Then like the chapters, the full cast, like a bunch of the main crew. Like that's what I love about all the space that I mentioned last week for Casablanca. I haven't opened this in a while, probably since I watched it. Hammy has a Laserdisc player, and he bought this for me, and we watched it together on his Laserdisc player. That was the only time he's seen it. Which that was fun. Like that's I believe the only time I've watched a movie on Laserdisc.
Wow.
I don't think I've seen anything else on Laserdisc.
Okay.
So I've seen my movie in 4 different formats. There's more than 4 formats sitting here because one of them I can't watch because I don't have a player.
The
Oh
VHS
my
one.
goodness, that's right, because Criterion's gonna have like essay or like stuff about the movie.
That's a whole essay. Holy crap.
Yeah, and then there's no like other features other than there's the disc. I don't want to take it too far because I've never been good at putting these back.
It really is designed quite a bit like a vinyl album.
I mean,
It's the same
they're
size.
the same size.
Yeah.
It's a giant. It's the same size disc. It's same size this. You wonder if the idea when not only because of what it is, it's like because of the spine too. Like you can arrange them just like you would vinyl.
The only issue is I feel like vinyl is
Do you need help?
making
I think I got it.
a comeback because
It sounds good.
it just sounds better than other things where I feel like
Unfortunately, it's so expensive. Unless you go to like a record store and get something.
yeah,
used.
it
But,
fully
like-
depends on what records and albums you're looking at.
But it can get so expensive.
Yeah. But that's what I was going to say for a laser disc. I feel
30,
like
$40 each. That's expensive.
yeah.
Are you buying Taylor Swift albums?
No.
It
Just-
fully depends on what album.
It-
Like I seen stuff go for like 30, 40, $50, and
Also, if they're double albums, it matters because of the amount of material they have to use.
yeah.
Well, like when I've gone to like record stores around here.
Like
or-
Vertigo is.
I've never been to Vertigo. I'd like to
Really?
go. Yeah, I'd
It's
like
a good.
to go.
It's a good one.
But like when I look for like U2 stuff, it's like I don't have $30.
That's a harder sell because U2 is one of the most popular bands in the world.
At the same time, though, like if it's like an original press, you would think that because like of something from what like All You Can't Leave Behind from like 2000, you wouldn't think that'd be super expensive because accessible on streaming. CD sold well back in the day.
But collector's market.
True. I don't know. I just feel like it's like I just don't have the money to buy a bunch of these. I'd have to buy like one. Like I bought American Head, the Flaming Lips album. I think it's the last vinyl I bought. One of them, and that was like $35. Came out in 2020, and it's it's 4 sides. Mm-hmm. But still, it's like I did it because it's like when in Rome. I never buy this. It's right here.
But and then you have me.
I can't really buy in bulk.
Quite. Yes.
Nice. But yep, that's what Hammy gave me. Is possibly the best Christmas present I've ever gotten. And I believe the next thing in order is the Betamax. So it's the same thing as the VHS cover. It's just smaller. Betamax is similar to VHS. It's kind of I wish I knew more about it. If we had Hammy in here or our good old buddy old pal Drew, they'd explain it. It's a similar thing. Okay. Existed at the same time. If you've seen Cowboy Bebop, there's that whole episode where they go into like that old. It's like a factory. You remember this episode? Because her name's May, right? She has like a tape, but then I can't remember if the tape is VHS and they accidentally get a Betamax or if it's switched, but they get the wrong thing. But somehow Ed is the smart kid, right?
That I don't remember.
They find a way to watch it. They find a way to watch it.
I've seen that.
But like that's what I know it from, and I only have 2 Betamax in my collection. This, in terms of endearment,
such a wild.
It's a good movie. I found it at a place for like $2. I was like, sure. I don't have any Betamax at that point, and this was movie number 2000.
Oh wow! There you go.
Because I was like, I remember I'm at Hammy's house for like a bonfire with some people. I can't really call it a bonfire. It's not like a big fire, but. Or a campfire, whatever. I guess bonfire.
Yeah, bonfire.
He's probably listening and going, yes, it's a bonfire. Sorry. And he has every right to be mad because I straight up said it's not a bonfire. It is. But I remember talking to him a couple summers ago, and I was like, stop. It's like, what do I get for my 2000th movie? Without hesitation, just get the Zulu Betamax. It's probably like $10 on eBay. Yeah, it's like $10 on eBay.
There you go.
And it's still in the wrap that the person sent it to me in because I have no reason to take it out. Yeah. Because it's not like there's any like feature thing to look at, and I'm not putting it in anything.
He just likes having a sealed collection.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's not like this is even like original seal. It's the seal the seller put over it. But I thought it was funny. It's like, yeah, it's the same. I was looking at like, okay, how is this on here? Like how much? Okay, yep, there's like space here, and this is the credits are less or something. Like it's fun to see if it's the same quotes and everything. What are you laughing at?
We're losing Dickey.
I'm still here.
Yeah, we're almost done.
I'm sure Jake just
I look up and I see him going. I'm like, well, in his defense, we are dissecting the design of this cover.
Also, hear me out. It's late. I've been up a while.
Me too. I should be more tired and you haven't slept in a week. But I'm talking about my favorite movie. So let's keep going. Yeah. This one, it's like a cheap copy.
Is that sealed too?
Because they sealed it at the
gas station?
It wasn't gas station. It was a thrift store. I'm in there with my brother. I don't remember. I think he's looking for like furniture or something to like, because when he was looking to move out of our house. And so I go to the movies because I'm like, I'm probably not going to find anything because usually the selection is stuff I already have or stuff that I don't care about. And I see this sitting there like, I'm like, no way. I'm like, I've never seen this. Like, who even put this out? This looks like someone in 2005 got on like Print Shop. You remember Print Shop?
Yep.
Got on Print Shop and threw this together.
Yeah.
It says Diamond Entertainment. Copyright 2000, so it's older than this other DVD release.
And it says widescreen.
Not full screen.
Do you remember when you could get full screen versus widescreen?
I sure as hell do.
So you want to see
the original copy I bought of Fellowship of the Ring was full screen. I made a point of asking them.
Remember the old days? You probably just said this, but you put the disc in and it gives you the choice.
Yeah, that's what, yeah.
That's what you're saying? That's just so funny. It's like, and as kids, full screen. I want the whole
That's
screen
what I
filled
was
up.
about to
And
bring
then,
up.
and then I remember at one point my sister's like, but then you're not going to see everything. Yes, you are. It's bigger. And she's like, no, like they zoom in. You're missing like the sides of the picture. So
I don't want those black bars. Get rid
Yep.
of the black bars.
Because you want it to be like the theater.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is the full-length feature film, fully restored and enhanced digital masters. Chapters, direct scene access, and in parentheses, go straight to your favorite scenes. Original graphics, interactive menus, and biography. Remember when you'd go to a screen and it'd just be like a paragraph about each main actor or director?
Yeah.
It's like, they directed this, this, and this. They died in this year. So yeah, this is just funny. It's like, I couldn't believe I found this. And it still has the person's name on there because I'm bad at taking stickers off. It never goes well for me. I have no fingernails because I have bad anxiety. So that's the Zulu collection. There's one more here. We'll get to it in a second. It's not like we're going to go on a huge tangent. There is a sequel to the movie. I think I mentioned.
No.
It's a prequel.
It's a pre-sequel.
It's a Zulu-quel.
Okay. So it's
You're
called.
losing both of us, man.
I'm here in spirit.
Where is
man.
that year?
I'm starting
Where is
to-
that year?
I'm fading.
Hey,
fast.
this one's rewound.
What?
This one's rewound. So in the 70s.
Well, someone was kind.
So in the 70s, Cy Enfield didn't direct this, but wrote the screenplay for Zulu Dawn, and this is about the British invading and getting slaughtered at Isfahanwana. So this is like the stuff that leads up to Zulu.
So this is probably going to be the one you want where the Zulu win.
Yeah.
They do win. I can't remember. I feel like they're portrayed as a lot more barbaric and like
It sort of looks like it from the cover.
Yeah, I can see that.
yeah, it's got some pretty big names in it too. You know, you got Burt Lancaster, big name, Peter O'Toole, John Mills, Bob Hoskins is in it.
Did you
too.
say that was 80s?
I think he said
70s. I think it's like, I feel like it's like 79. So about 100 years
Yeah, that's a hell of a...
after it happened.
It's like, what, like 15 years after it came out or something?
After Zulu, because it's Cy Enfield, they wrote the screenplay, and I remember I saw it once. I watched it as a kid, and I didn't like it.
You gave it a 3 on Letterboxd.
Yeah,
Well, it's
I'd
6.
like to revisit it when it's again one time. Watched it at like 10 years old. I was like, I didn't really like it, but I'll give it another chance.
6 out of 10 is technically positive.
But that's why I brought it. It's like it's with my Zulu display, and this was this was also my part of my grandpa's collection. We borrowed both when we did borrow it. Ooh, there we go. So just to bring that up, so I'd like to revisit that. I know I've said it a couple times, but one of these days I just need a way to watch it.
Yeah.
They're probably someone's like, well, it's on this streaming
It
service.
is
Like,
on
oh,
It is on Peacock.
it's on Peacock as well.
It
recommended
redirects
it.
right to it.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
that's the next thing that I saw.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll have to check that out one of these. If I had time, it was kind of recording today was a little, not last second, but like
It
week
was
of,
yeah.
just because.
Spontaneous.
Yeah, so wish I would have had more time with it. Quick thing, this happened in high school. I was scrolling IMDb, and I saw the release date of the movie. It was my birthday. 30 years to the day before I was born.
Was it
I am
really?
not kidding. The wide release date. The premiere was in January on the anniversary of the battle, but then it came out on June 17th, 1964. 30
That's
years to
too
the day.
funny.
And at this point, it had been almost 10 years of me loving it, and I was like,
It's meant to be.
that's uncanny.
It was meant to be.
That's out of all the days, all right. It's meant to be.
That's fantastic. I don't know if I don't think any of my favorite.
You can
movies
see
are-
connections anywhere you want, can't you?
But that's like, it's coincidence, but it's
Yeah,
like,
but you could have said
that's
that.
so.
It's 27 years to the date.
But it's still the same date though.
But that's the thing, like landing on that day. If it was like the 16th or the 18th, it's like,
You know-
hey, that's
you know
close
what
to
else,
my birthday.
You know what else landed on the day you were born?
OJ?
Yeah.
Hey, you know
You
what?
feel some kind of spiritual connection to him?
You want to know what came out the day that I was born? Star Wars.
Oh,
It did.
Phantom Menace?
No, I'm pretty sure the It was released on May 24th. I'm not kidding you. I think it was.
I don't remember.
It was in May at least.
Sea of Silver Linings Playbook was released on December 17th.
I feel like
there's a fact check in here.
I feel like that came out in like September, October.
I feel like it came out in October.
For Silver Linings.
Yeah, you're looking up Star Wars?
Oh, I was one day off. May 25th.
I was gonna say that's Memorial Day weekend, so
it makes sense. It's a big release weekend. You'd want to put a big movie on there.
I don't know that was considered a big movie at the time.
Actually, I have to tell you right, it wasn't. They had to tag it. Oh, once again, bringing up Star Wars. Keeping a great streak going.
Every single episode.
Keeping a great streak going.
Christmas. The wide for Silver Linings was Christmas Day.
Was it really?
That's what it said. It was out earlier for other releases. I feel like around here we got it before Christmas, but like not that long, like a week after your birthday.
Why do I feel like
it's
that
kind of funny.
Came out in the fall?
I don't know. I remember I saw it like into the new year with my sister, like January, February, like award season.
Yours was the day of. Mine was the day after, and yours was like
a week after.
All right around
it's
the first movies.
Meant to be.
It was absolutely meant to be, baby.
I mean, I can't tell you how many Lord of the Rings movies have been released on my birthday. At least 2.
That's when it was coming out. Makes sense. Ow. Yeah. Quick note, Patrick McGee, I forgot to mention, the surgeon was also in A Clockwork Orange and Barry Lyndon, 2 Kubrick movies. And every time I say, hey, it's Surgeon Reynolds.
Ooh.
No one else on the face of the earth does that.
Clockwork Orange is such a trip.
Great movie.
It's such a trip.
So is Barry Lyndon. They're both great.
I have not seen that, but
I also haven't seen Barry
It's
Lyndon.
very, very good.
I did try to read the Clockwork Orange book.
I hear that's difficult.
It is. Because you got to try to read it without looking at the glossary in the back, but everything in you wants to look at the glossary in the back.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Zulu, it's been a favorite of mine for over 2 decades. It's one that, from a distance, people can make simplistic statements about. It's much more complicated than that. It's not the most progressive thing. It's a 60s British movie about an 1870s conflict that already is something that's like, yeah, colonialism is bad. I feel like this movie is not focused on the British being terrible colonialists. I think it's this one group that were attacked by people defending their homeland. It's one of those, neither side is quite demonized. The British don't look good in this because, again, like I said, they're bastards in this.
Oh, God, yeah, they're worse.
Hilarious dicks.
And then also showing some pretty cool ways to shoot battles, which have permeated through the years, and have influenced other larger works. Yes, I will continue to love this. It'll probably just be my favorite movie forever. Can't be sure. You never know what happens, but it's been here over 20 years.
Jared,
I don't think it's going anywhere.
I don't know where I'm going to be in 20 years. I don't know where you're going to be in 20 years.
You're going to be a Denver Broncos fan, and you're going to be plotting his demise.
So help me God.
And
that will never
Jake's going to
happen.
have one of those floating, like, dune chair things. Like the Baron's just going to be floating above us all.
All I was going to say is if the day happens to come that you see a movie that you like more than this, tell me. Because I will be very excited. I'll be very curious to see if that happens.
It gets a little disheartening when you have to defend things you like so much, and when people say, "Oh, you don't really have to." It's like,
yeah, but you're defending it to idiots. You're literally defending it to like when you talk about Gettysburg. There's a little bit more of a. Let's unpack this more.
It's a much harder.
But this
thing
is
to
like
discuss.
you're literally defending it to idiots.
Yeah, and it's like I really want to comment. And it's like that's not going to make anyone feel better. They're just going to.
It's going to make you feel better.
No, it won't, because then they'll respond. I'll keep responding until it's long and it's pointless, and I get frustrated and anxious. And it's just kind of got to take it. Just gotta deal
Stop
with it.
having
It's
such.
also just
Stop
random
having
people
such
online.
controversial picks.
Sorry that I like things and I like unpacking things and looking into histories of things instead
don't
of
you
just
just
putting
pick-
Star Wars
why-
movies as my favorite.
Why don't
That
why
wasn't
don't
a knock
why
at
don't
you on
do
purpose.
that?
Why
Like that
why
wasn't
don't you just pick like
Knives
Say
Out
Star
2.
Wars.
Captain Marvel as your number 1 pick?
Because that's woke.
Oh my God.
I'm not woke.
Then
I'm broke.
Woke and broke, baby.
I probably yeah. That's the thing about this rewatch. It's like some of these, I don't have to necessarily defend it tooth and nail, but there are some. It's like I've got to be able to explain to people why I like it, which I feel like I've done pretty well.
I also think you should be able to do that for anybody. You should be able to do that for any of their favorite movies.
Yeah. It's a little different when like some of your movies. It's like that. Those are some popular movies. You don't really have to defend it because if anything, you have to defend why you like it in the sense of everyone likes it.
Well, that's what I was going to get.
I had to defend my movie from a retrospective. Why did I like it? And
that's right.
It was garbage.
Yeah. I mean, like it's a similar thing for you just said about mine. It's like I still have to defend like yours is basic. Well, yeah, but it's basic because
and when you
it's
even
basic,
said
so he doesn't. It's not difficult to defend.
Yeah. So that's the one thing. It's like I was scared one of these picks was not going to feel the same, or the Looper effect, as we'll call it now.
The Looper effect.
Oh no.
But
I swear, in 2012, I loved that movie.
Yeah,
which
I
is
still
fine.
love
That was a
movie.
decade ago. It makes sense why things have changed. But getting back to it's like that. The big thing though is like, man, I got a couple of these that I just have to explain myself and unpack so much, and then by the time you unpack it all, an idiot out there's not going to listen.
No.
Because the second you combat with them with facts, they just spout the same thing they're saying, or they just ignore it altogether.
Is there another one besides Gettysburg in this though?
It's probably just these two. I'm just saying like those
It's
are the two
definitely-
big ones,
I mean, maybe Duck Soup a little bit.
but not much because most people are like, yeah,
That's not really defending it so much as giving context.
Yeah,
To me.
Yeah.
to him. Yeah, but this, as I said too many times, will probably remain my favorite movie, maybe forever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. All right. Anything else before we wrap this up?
Yep, the last one of our
We did it.
31 movies.
Yeah, that's crazy. And you know what's going to be even crazier is what we got going on next. Because we're doing a wrap-up episode of all this, aren't we? Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to go through and give our thoughts on our top 10s and how they changed and what we experienced throughout all this challenge.
Yeah, it'll be a final thoughts video where we're not watching a movie. We're just recapping what we did for all 31 movies. Talk about them brief.
31.
Brief. Yeah.
You're special.
Oh, that's right. I have
Yep.
a bonus.
You forgot about that?
Didn't I have 2 bonuses?
No.
2 bonuses.
No.
It was just the
I thought I
Godfather.
did.
Just you had number
Which technically,
11.
does that count as 3 movies?
It's edited as 1.
Yeah.
So, and then other things like, well, because not to get into it here now, and we've talked about whether it's what changes you'd make, because going in, it's like, here's my top 10, and now that we've watched them all, not spread out like in our lives, it's one after the other.
Mm-hmm.
Does it change rankings? Are there some you drop? Are there any honorable mentions, like outside your top, like right outside that would get put in that spot? But that will be all
It's
next
going to be
week.
a fun conversation for next week.
Yeah.
So until then, if you like what you hear and you want to hear more, you can follow us online. Jared, what are those links?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, the funny TikTok, and X. And you can listen to us on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And hey, if it's YouTube, like, subscribe, comment, ring our bell. You can see throughout the series all the fun little props. This was the mother load today because it's the most. And where other ones, I think like Wings of Desire, Parasite, I have like one thing.
Yeah.
Well, Wings of Desire had a couple. But point being, I tried to bring in props.
I like the props. The props are fun.
Yeah, and so,
So yeah.
yeah.
Thank
And,
you.
rate us and like us or whatever on all those
all those
apps. And
apps,
check out our groovy website.
Absolutely. So yes, like we said, next week we have our epic conclusion to this top 10 challenge. So stay tuned, and we'll see you guys next time.